Dead Day, the story of Thomase Ryane. Chapter 1. The grey sky over the city wept a cold, persistent rain that lashed against the glass walls of the corporate monolith. Inside, under the sterile glow of office lights, stood Thomase Ryane, 26 years old, a fresh law school graduate. His expensive suit was a thin shell hiding a storm of nerves. He was trying to land a job at a prestigious firm, and beside him stood his best friend, Bernard, a pillar of support and calm. "You got this, man," Bernard mumbled, clapping him on the back as they stepped into the elevator. Employees rushed past them, tired, overworked. Two of them were coughing loudly, the aftermath of a late-night binge. Everything seemed normal, except for the secretary who brought them coffee. A nasty bite mark was visible on her forearm, the bandage makeshift and slightly soaked through. "Some lunatic attacked me on my way to work," she said with a forced smile, noticing their stares. The meeting began. The CEO, a man with a gaze as cold as steel, entered the room. He needed a lawyer, but not just any lawyer. He needed a scapegoat. The firm was facing lawsuits from 3 business partners, accusing it of theft and fraud. Whispers in the hallways spoke of far worse things: a black market of weapons and drugs secretly operated by the company. Thomase delivered his speech, pouring his entire soul into it. He spoke of ethics, law, and justice. The CEO barely listened. He knew Thomas's education and naivety were exactly what he needed. "You're hired," he said, devoid of emotion. 3-month probation, minimum wage. Before Thomase could even process what was happening, a horrific, inhuman scream echoed from the adjacent office. The doors burst open and an assistant stumbled into the room. His eyes were clouded, his movements jerky and animalistic. He launched himself at the nearest colleague, his fingers digging into the victim's neck like talons. A hoarse shriek escaped his lips as he began to tear at the flesh. Panic erupted. Before anyone could react, the assistant lunged at another person. 2 brave employees tackled him, wrestled him to the ground, and tied him up with their belts. But it was too late. The victims lay in pools of blood with their throats ripped out. Someone quickly dragged them aside, out of the way. The police and an ambulance were called. As the police were leading the assistant away in handcuffs, he broke free in a fit of insane fury and managed to scratch 2 more people before they brutally subdued him with a blow to the head. Paramedics carried away 2 dead bodies and treated the lightly injured. The world was beginning to fall apart. Thomase stood frozen, unable to process the horror he had just witnessed. At that moment, sirens blared across the entire city. It wasn't a false alarm. The sound mixed with the roar of helicopters and a series of deafening explosions. From the windows, they saw the unthinkable: Air Force jets systematically bombing every bridge leading out of the city, sealing off the main roads. The city had become a trap. Hysterical screams began to erupt from other offices. People on the streets, who had been rushing about their day just moments before, were now attacking each other. Hordes of bloodthirsty, walking corpses flooded the streets like a tidal wave of death, devouring the living. A hoarse voice came over the city's public address system: "Stay inside your buildings. Do not go outside until further notice. The military is handling the situation." The military was not handling the situation. Chaos erupted inside the building as well. People fled in a panic down the stairs, trying to escape outside. It was their death sentence. As soon as they ran out of the building, the hordes in the streets consumed them. The skyscraper was surrounded. Thomase, Bernard, and the CEO barricaded themselves in the CEO's luxurious office. Thomase broke down. He sat in a corner, shaking and sobbing. He tried to call his parents, but his phone was dead, and in his shock, he couldn't remember their number. The CEO, meanwhile, calmly pulled a pistol from his desk drawer. "This penthouse has enough supplies for 5 people for a month," he said coldly. "And there's more in the garage. I'm inviting you two to join me, but we have to get there first." Bernard tried to calm Thomase down, but it was useless. His patience snapped. "Get up, Thomase!" he yelled. When Thomase didn't respond, he slapped him across the face. I'm not letting you rot here. Let's go." With tears in his eyes, Thomas got up. He bit his lip and followed. The trio headed up the stairs towards the CEO's rooftop penthouse. The offices were empty, silent, with only distant screams echoing from the lower floors. On the floor, just below their destination, they heard disgusting sounds, the wet sounds of chewing and tearing flesh. They cautiously peered around the corner. The secretary, the beautiful woman with the bitten arm, was now kneeling over the body of the vice president, gnawing at his neck. Her eyes were dead, her movements animalistic. The CEO raised his gun in horror, his hands trembling. When she saw them, she lunged with an inhuman roar. The CEO fired several times but missed. Bernard swung his belt at her, but it had no effect. The secretary leaped at the CEO. He dodged, but in a fateful move, he stumbled into Bernard, and the creature bit him on the shoulder. In agony, Bernard shoved her away with his fist, but it was too late. In the ensuing chaos, the CEO slipped in a pool of blood, and the reanimated vice president pounced on him. In a surge of adrenaline, Thomas kicked the creature in the head and kept running, leaving the CEO's dying screams behind him. Bernard, clutching his bleeding shoulder, grabbed the keys the CEO had dropped, and together he and Thomas ran up the final flight of stairs. Terrified and exhausted, they reached the penthouse and slammed the heavy door shut behind them. Only the two of them remained, in the silence, for now.